Welcome to the One for the Road podcast. My name is Mr. K. Alongside me, as always, is C Squared. Tonight we have a big, beautiful show. We're
And
going to
there
talk
it
about
is.
the big, beautiful Bill, the good, the bad, the ugly. Oh, you're going to hear a lot about two sides of this, I think, more than one side.
Oh, this show should be huge.
What does this bill's passage mean for Americans on this 4th of July weekend? We'll discuss we'll also interject the formation of the American Party by Elon Musk. And yeah, just some of the aspects of this bill, which is just
Ironically enough,
unreal.
it seems almost like almost like a poke in the eye for us Liberty plebes on 4th of July
Right.
weekend, where you get things like 10 years of states' rights being circumvented
Jeez.
for being able to sue AI. Great Liberty Weekend type of
Yeah.
law you put in there, boys. The Bizarro get $1,000 for your kid if they were born between 2025 going forward if you tie their social security number to a direct account at the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting, doesn't it?
Right.
An international bank who we don't actually know who the owners are,
Right.
tying social security numbers to names internationally. If I was going to start a global currency to circumvent all other sovereign currencies, how would I do that? How would I get people on board? Oh, I might give them something,
Right. Right.
something worthless of
Right.
no apparent value to get them to sign their information on and
Right. Right.
$1,000.
Yeah, that's
People, if you do that, you are insane.
right. So let's talk about the good because there is not much of it, if you ask me. I'll bounce these off of you. No tax on tips. No tax on
Okay, that's
overtime.
good. They're the only one shining star in that bill.
Well, no tax on overtime. That's good. No tax on car loan interest. I didn't know there was. Some they're going to clamp down on alien. When I see alien, I imagine illegal
Well,
aliens. They're closing a loophole where they were getting SNAP benefits, supplemental nutrition
yeah.
assistance program.
And while I agree with that, and we won't go down this rabbit hole, I will say in many past podcasts we've discussed why it is that you would go after somebody in a field picking strawberries that has been doing that for two
Right, right,
decades seasonally, and then going back to Mexico or wherever when the picking season is over, opposed to the 1.1 million supposed gang members and terrorists in this country.
yes,
And the
yes,
only reason I could think is because it's not really that easy to catch the 1.1 million people. So I'm just going to act like I'm doing something and, harass a bunch of people to raise the price of strawberries through the supply chain costs.
right,
Very
right.
nice, gentlemen. Thank you.
Here's one I can't. It made me laugh. Ending unemployment payments to jobless millionaires is in the big beautiful bill.
Yeah,
Why that was occurring prior is a big question.
right.
But
Exactly.
permanently extend the 2017 Trump tax cuts. I thought were pretty good. I got some money in
Okay.
my pocket during those. Again, anti illegal aliens. He's increasing immigration fees. Again, he is not fond of illegal aliens and wants to make this as painful as
Who
possible.
is who in this country that came in the last 4 years paid any of those fees anyway?
Right, right,
Ridiculous. So
right.
again, the people who have been coming here for 20 years, migrant, what I would consider migrant labor, are now are now incentivized to come here illegally because you again raise the fees on them
Right, right.
to come here for 6 months and help pick strawberries.
And
Very nice, folks.
what's laughable is, and again, it's just nuts. He's raising like fees by 50, 100, $500. Yet you'll see later he's just giving out billions of dollars like it's candy to the industrial military complex. But
Right,
we'll get
right.
into that later. Uh, I got some cuts.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't
man.
know. Here's a cut that I kind of like.
Lots of pork in there. While you brought that up, John, for companies like Palantir and
Yeah.
Palmer Lucky's company and all these kind of weird stuff going into the military-industrial
Oh,
complex.
there's some nasty stuff.
Shocking, and shocking with
Yeah.
Thiel and Alex Karp and Palmer Lucky and all these guys in the background for that train wreck.
So one of the cuts I kind of liked, I don't know, I don't again, amounts appropriated to the Public Wireless Supply Chain Innovation Fund. That was 850 million that was going to
Yeah.
that. I'm unaware that public wireless providers need federal funding. They seem to be doing pretty good on their own.
Yeah, along with energy providers who were bought up by large investment firms, and then shut down their coal plants and got state governments to allow them to raise their transportation fees via what they call riders, and
Oh
because
yeah,
they're
right.
so poor now that they've shut down their cash cow, the coal producing plants, and they're going to pass it on to the public. They're going to pass those losses on to the public, and
Right.
and of course they're shareholders, if that's the case. And so good. Thanks to your ESG master
Oh yeah.
that
He's
actually
on there.
own controlling interest and are controlling the boards of those companies. And but so I can't wait to see if there's any subsidies in there, to help the energy companies who are again have raised prices for the second year in a row here in the Midwest
Right, right.
and have been allowed to do that via the state governments after shutting down their most economical means of power production.
So one that's been talked about with a lot of outrage is well, that pretty much concludes the good. I don't think I'm going to find any more good in this. We're going to quickly go to the
Well, that
bad.
was one page out of like 15 or 1600. Well,
Yeah.
what do you want?
So the first cut that I find mind-boggling is the National Park Service and Bureau of Land Management. He's going to cut that out and
Well,
leave it to the states to
well,
control the
so
park
you
sites.
bring that up, John, and that just rung another bell where supposedly in there are millions of federal acres for sale that are apparently going to be scooped up by NGOs, by private corporations who can afford to bid on these things and get a huge windfall on this land. I want to know that something doesn't smell right. You've
Right.
had
It's just
you've had that property in the under federal control for a long time. If there's mineral rights on that property, why are you not just leasing them and still controlling the property? Why would you sell that property? I want to
right.
know. Other than the company that's buying it is my buddy's company. So
Right.
all there's so many things in the big beautiful bill that
It's big.
stink to high heaven.
Right.
When you start digging on this thing, it's unbelievable, man.
So this thing is big. It is not beautiful by any stretch of the imagination. So the National Park Service cut really segues into his 24 environmental cuts. So, I mean, he is just going to town. I'll read you a few samples of amongst the 24 repeals he has concerning the environment. He's going to repeal the greenhouse gas reduction fund. He's going to
Okay,
repeal.
I'm all for that, but okay, so
Oh, okay,
we're
really?
in the positive. Yeah, we're in the positive category for me. As long as it's not water pollution, it probably is
Well, some of these,
2024.
yeah, some of these I think you're going to agree with. So one is funding for air pollution is gone. Uh,
Um,
Funding for a section of the Clean Air Act is gone.
that's probably who knows what that section is, but
Right, right. And it's only one section. Funding for Environmental Protection Agency, but it's only the efficient, accurate, and timely reviews. Funding for environmental and climate data collection. Some that might be good. Some of this carbon stuff. He's rescinding the funding for low carbon materials for federal buildings. He's
great.
also rescinding the low carbon transportation material grants.
That's
So again,
okay.
it's
So you
probably
just
some
did
good
name a bunch
cuts.
of positive things
Yes, those are
because that's a
those are
bunch
some
of
good cuts.
commie ESG garbage that has been floating around. What I will say is, when you had all this ridiculous stuff talking about carbon, climate exchanges, and all this stuff that was wired on the back end by scumbags like Al Gore and John Kerry and all these and Larry Fink, all these disgusting scumbags. You look at it and say, not once did you ever see anything that talked about clean water, which is probably
Yeah.
the only
Yep.
environmental issue that we
Right.
really have. But since their companies are very since that is very measurable
Right.
in a realistic term, and and it's likely a bunch of companies that they own doing the polluting, you're never going to hear about that type stuff.
Right.
And so isn't it ironic? And I've never said that. The only problem that you've really seen that directly impacted people immediately that you could see was, your water supply just got poisoned. And
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
Yeah, that is really scary. So the theme in a lot of this is that Trump was not a fan of the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, which was put in by Biden. And the big, beautiful bill rolls back nearly everything in this act. This act was a federal law focused on reducing the federal budget deficit, lowering prescription drug prices, and investing in domestic energy production while promoting clean energy. And that last part, Mr. Trump went to town in the big, beautiful bill and is rolling back all of that stuff, it seems.
Good, because I will tell you what, dude, they in so within 15 miles of my current residence, there were two fired plants. They closed down one of them. within a mile of my residence, they put in a 600-acre solar plant,
Hmm.
um, actually on the same street that I live. So, real close. Um, uh, and they have raised my energy costs somewhere in between 12 and 18%
Oh,
the last
yeesh.
year.
That's a
Mhm.
little more than the cost of living.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
Now I just want to thank the governor of Ohio for putting all those people on the revolving door PUCO committee that allows these people to do that.
Wow.
And wow, and he
So,
and he
yeah,
is in fact a Republican. So,
yeah.
and I want to know who I'm assuming the person that sponsored the big beautiful bill is also a Republican.
Yes.
Um, So just because you are a Republican does not mean that you should be supported by the people because these people are dirtballs.
All right. The sponsor of the big, beautiful bill is the famous Jody Arrington, the Republican House representative out of Texas.
Interesting. I wonder how long he's been.
No one's ever heard of.
Yeah, right. When does he get a job on Fox News
Yeah.
after they chuck him out?
Right. Right. 3 years from now. Don't be
Right.
surprised.
Exactly.
There's some other things you might like. Termination of, so he went to town on the Inflation Act. Here's a few excerpts. Termination of the clean vehicle credit, termination of previously owned clean vehicle credit, the termination of the qualified commercial clean vehicle credit. This is all has to do with vehicles, a la Elon. Termination of alternative fuel vehicle refueling property credit, termination of energy efficient home improvement credits, termination of residential clean energy credit, termination of new energy efficient home credit, termination of restrictions on clean electricity investment credit,
Right.
termination of clean hydrogen production credit.
Now, you know what I think is going to be a benefit for me personally from that scenario? I think what is going to be a benefit from me is I don't actually need a truck to transport the solar panels from a mile down my road. So when that thing financially collapses within the next 18 months, I'm going down there to bid on those panels. And
Right, right,
I
right,
will just walk them right up the street on a dollar.
right, right. I mean, that's a sampling of his rollbacks of the Inflation Act of 2022. He's establishing, I'll go off on some other tangents. He's putting in loan limits for graduate and professional students and parent borrower termination. One area I'm not wild about is his Medicaid and Medicare cuts. He's reducing state Medicaid costs. He's limiting Medicare coverage of certain individuals. They're saying that millions of people will lose health insurance. Hospitals may struggle with some of these cuts.
That
There's
is,
roughly going to be about $1 trillion in Medicaid cuts over the next decade. That's
hmm,
going to affect about 12 million people from now until 2034.
that
So
seems
I
like,
don't know what his reasoning of that is.
yeah.
I mean, and
See,
he's
I would
given the
love to
money to
see
the
who was
industrial.
impacted on that.
Excuse me.
I would love to see exactly, statistically who
Right.
was impacted on that and how, like, demographic pieces on who was actually impacted on that and what is impacted. So, in other words, um, did we impact you at 97 years old getting a knee replacement?
Right.
And is that
Right.
what was impacted? Because that is less. impactful than I'm, you know, on 38 years old on Medicaid, and I have 3 kids, and I have a faulty heart valve or something like that. Now you're denying me
Yeah, that would
that
be
I
really
mean,
scary.
realistically, I mean, I would like to see that statistic to figure out,
Right.
what is it that impacted? Because did you truly do something stupid and real damage, like when you die because your heart valve is faulty at 38? Who gets to take care of your 3 kids? You
Yeah.
dumbasses.
Right. Right.
And
Right. Exactly.
opposed to I'm 97, and realistically the knee is going to outlast me by a decade. What was the point of paying $40,000 for this? And sorry
Right.
about your luck at 97, but you're just going
Yeah.
to have to like buy a new wheelchair.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and in summary, I think a lot of the losers in this are the environment. He is the anti-Biden. He is not the environmental president.
Well,
To his credit, this is a platform he ran on, was
and you know
anti-environment.
what, John? I really don't believe that any of that environmental stuff actually had anything to do with the environment. I think
Right.
it was all
That's a good
freaking
point.
it was all a scam. So that's it. Again, if you want to discuss the Clean Water Act, and that's maybe we should take just 10% of that and put it back into water pollution enforcement and see what companies come up on that list, and
Right.
as do
Right.
dumping a bunch of chemicals that you drink right out of your faucet in there, because the air pollution scenario, the carbon stuff was 100% a scam. Was absolute. They've been caught fraudulently fixing the monitoring data for not once,
Right.
decades worth of
Right.
fraudulent data being produced. And
Right. Right.
um but as for the air pollution, yeah, I you know what, coal plants, I live within 10 miles of a coal plant, dude. It is like 95% clean. Those
Right.
scrubbers and putting water down is 95% clean. You know what, dude? And so what do you so where does that coal actually come from? It comes down the river on a barge and gets dropped off at the Duke plant there, man. So if you tell me it is cheaper to like ship some type of other alternative power to your coal plant via what? Train, truck, plane? You rolled a barge full of coal from West Virginia down the river and dumped it off next to the plant. And
Right. Right.
there is no possibility that you could be doing something more efficient in your
Right.
supply chain
Right.
than that, man.
Right. Right. Right.
So a bunch of this stuff was ridiculous ESG stuff, in my own personal opinion.
Right. I mean, so that's pretty much the summary of the cuts. The one thing that's amazing is there's hardly any Doge cuts. All the stuff Elon did is not in this bill.
Well,
USAID isn't in this bill. This
isn't that
dismantling of
disturbing?
the Department of Education, I couldn't find anything in the bill about that. So
So the other thought is, I just read this, and it basically said that like only 17% of the cuts. It said that Doge's mandate was, well, hats off to Elon for going
yes,
after that type of stuff.
yes,
His claim Not and I do like Elon, but not that he's ever made claims that were ludicrous before,
Not
and that
Elon.
his claim about $2 trillion was in fact totally ludicrous, and the reason being that only 17% of the things that he could have possibly found were able to be line itemed out by the president. The other 83% of the items would have had to been voted on by
Right.
Congress
Right.
anyway. So there is no way that his goals were ever achievable. It
Yeah,
was
which is the
all a
shame.
sham from the get go, because the bottom line is Congress was never going to take those 83. Congress has a really great track record of never giving back money that they have
Right.
been allocated
Yeah.
in any
Yeah.
way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And so keep that in mind, folks.
That's true. That's true. So this segues into, Elon's not exactly happy with what went down. I mean, he does this marvelous work of Doge, and then comes the big, beautiful bill, and it injects $3.4 trillion or more in debt. His whole thing was to get us out of debt by, let's cut USAID. Let's do this, do this, do
Oh,
this, give the money back, and
and
we'll
I
cut the
agree with
deficit.
him completely on that aspect. While I'm saying that it was unrealistic, what he was saying, um, his motive there to actually do that was outstanding.
Right.
Nothing negative to say about Elon in that aspect. His What he claimed he wanted to do was absolutely outstanding, and what this country needed
Oh yeah.
100%.
Right. So he has founded the American Party. He asked users on X if they wanted it. Two-thirds said they did. He's filed all the necessary paperwork. He is, I guess, the American Party will be running a candidate in the next election. But as we, as a tale of American history will show you, there have been pretenders to
Right.
the overthrow of the Democratic and Republican parties, and none have not even
Right,
sniffed
exactly.
being
Where's Ralph Nader
successful.
when you need him?
Right, right. I think the only time, if you ask me, where it was disruptive was when Perot ran and took votes away from Bush to allow Clinton to win, is a theory. But other
Right,
than
right,
that,
and
there
could
hasn't
have
been a lot of
possibly won
disruption.
himself, although man, we will never know because I believe Ross, the boss, is gone.
Yes,
We
this
will
is
never
Ralph.
know, but maybe exposing the deep state in shenanigans, even going back then, and
Right.
of saying, because there were all kinds of rumors and shenanigans as to why he dropped out and then came back in, and which realistically he potentially could have won if he wouldn't have dropped out. If he would have stayed in, he could potentially won. He actually had lots of people behind him, but there were rumors that a number of different threats were being made behind the scenes, and he could not stand the heat, so he got out of the kitchen. No.
Right, right. So who knows? One thing I laugh about is Steve Bannon, not a fan. Uh, Here's some quotes. You're not an American. You're South African. We take enough
Yeah,
time and prove the facts. We're going to deport you.
Bannon literally, dude. Sometimes all the brain cells are firing, and he says things that totally make sense, and then sometimes you get what he all those quotes that you just gave, and it's like, dude, are you insane?
Right,
You
right,
literally
right,
insane. And
right,
what happened to you're it's almost like he has um no moral compass whatsoever. It's whatever pops into Steve's mind
right,
at the time. I actually have no moral compass to say that either this is right or this is wrong. Which I get it. That's most of the people in Washington at this
yeah,
point, and so forth. You very rarely find a Tom Massey, a Ron
right,
Johnson, who absolutely have 100% a moral compass to say, this is what is right and this is what is wrong, and we're not diverging from
right,
right from wrong. You
right,
know what? And so, if there was more of that happening, then we wouldn't need a Steve Bannon. We wouldn't need a lot of these operations going on in DC, because you would have people that are absolutists. And
right,
so, but you have no absolutists. You just have people that, again, sometimes Bannon says some really brilliant things, and then it's totally off the spectrum with what you just brought, that says, dude, the guy's an American citizen. So guess
right,
what, Steve? He now has the same right to say whatever he wants, just like you do.
right,
And that is what the founding fathers put in the
right, right,
Constitution, right,
right,
dude? So what you're doing is making a jackass out of yourself
right,
by saying I only support the Constitution if it's me that's actually
mm,
saying things, and everybody else can go pound sand. I'll say stupid stuff like, you should be thrown in prison, you should be deported, you should
yeah,
be all what.
right.
Get out of here, man. Make
He
a
is.
damn fool of yourself is what you do.
Yeah, Bannon's never been a fan. Even during the height of Doge, when Musk was doing all this great work, he's just like, he's a South African. He's not American. How could Trump let this South African run U.S. policy? It's like, dude, and he will not get off this. He will not get off it, no matter
The
what.
bottom line is that, I don't see, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, what's the motivation?
I almost wonder if it isn't for like uh to get his view count,
Right,
continue people subscribing to his freaking service. And
right,
you almost wonder if that isn't the scenario sometimes for these people. And I look at it, I've had this argument going way back about people like Rush Limbaugh
oh
and stuff
God,
like that, who, these guys were just blowhards. Did
yes,
they do something for America? Sure, but the bottom line is they
not
were
much,
blowhards, dude.
not much.
They supported all kinds of stuff that was negative, like, perpetual war in the Middle East, until they
Yeah,
realized they had been duped, and then they try to back out of it somehow,
yeah,
dude.
yeah,
And sweep it under the rug, after they've realized that they've been blowing their big fat horns for freaking forever, trying to promote this stuff, and now they look like a damn fool. And
right,
right, so you look at that aspect and say, there is something to be said for absolutists, folks, who never back down. The Ron Johnson, the Senate, the Ron Johnsons in the world, and the House, the Tom Masseys of the world. They don't back down.
right,
They have a moral guidance, and you know exactly what you're going to get. And
right,
guess what? Those folks will get my money and my vote every time,
right, right. Yeah, yeah.
because
I wish there
the
was more.
bottom line is, I'm not going to get screwed by them, which
Right,
I have donated to the Trump campaign. I've donated to a bunch of other political campaigns. And guess what? At some point felt like, you know what? That's not what I gave you money for. And
Right,
that's not
right,
what you were saying when I
right,
gave you money. And now all of a sudden I've shifted into used car salesman mode and anything goes. And guess
right.
what? I'm not giving any more money to anybody. And ironically enough, how does that completely tie back? The same thing that Elon said. I ain't giving no more money to anybody
Right,
because
right.
guess what? I just got hosed by a used car salesman.
Yeah, all the money now is going into the American party, it
Right,
appears.
exactly, dude. You know,
So let's,
Elon, I can help you with that, and I work fairly cheap, under
yeah,
seven figures. Give me a holler, baby.
yeah, yeah, under seven figures, right,
Under seven
right.
figures. Give me a holler, baby.
So here is the spending spree. 40 billion's going to border security. I mean, that's a
Okay.
crazy amount of money for what's really needed, if you ask me. The big winners is the Department of Defense. And
Somebody who, and I would just, I didn't mean to cut you off, John, but I
that's
just
okay.
have to say this real quick. Somebody who has not balanced their budget in the tune of 20 plus trillion missing taxpayer dollars
Mm, yeah.
in 2 decades. In 2 decades, I haven't
Right.
balanced my budget in 2 decades, and there's 20 plus trillion missing dollars. Let's fund them in the bill for
Oh, and they are funded to the gills,
right,
folks.
exactly.
The,
Yeah.
so the big beautiful bill starts out with 16 measures related to increased spending in shipbuilding. Some of these are 85 million for United States made steel plate for shipbuilding industry base. The one I love is 450 million for the application of autonomy and artificial intelligence to naval shipbuilding. I mean, what's robots are going to make ships? Is that it?
Yeah, right,
450 mil
exactly.
to start that going?
Well, and so maybe it is satellite surveillance and all that kind of stuff of AI. Huh? Who would be the recipient of that if that was the case? Oh, would that be Palantir? Would that be
Right, right.
Palmer Lucky's little operation running over there, man? Huh, very interesting. Big Trump supporters there. And if you were going to do that, why don't you just give Elon a few of his subsidies? And
Right, right,
not that I ever
exactly.
wanted to buy an electric car. The bottom line, I could have potentially, guys, bought an electric car. An electric car, and this is my idea. I'm suing you, Elon, if you steal my idea, man. With an electric motor in the wheel, and
Right, right.
and then and then the only other thing you have is like a little Briggs and Stratton gas motor that actually charges the thing instead of this big humongous battery. The little gasoline motor generates electricity and sends it to the wheel. And then if you have a mechanical problem, dude, if your car is broken down in any way, shape, or form, you call AAA and they just bring you four new wheels and install them on the side of the highway, and you got a brand new damn car in
Yeah,
30 minutes or less.
yeah, 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 yeah. Some
Thanks
other
for allowing that plug, John.
right.
Mr.
So for some reason, Trump's in love with the Navy and ships. He's got some beauties in here. 4.6 billion for a second Virginia class submarine in 2026. He wants to spend 5.4 billion for two additional guided missile destroyers. He's got 1.8 billion for the procurement of landing ship medium, whatever that is. He's got 2.7 billion for the procurement of TAO oilers. 1.4 billion for the implementation of a multi-ship amphibious warship.
Well, so here is the deal. At least here, this is the only positive spin I can put on that, Mr. K, which is at least if you're spending that money and I don't see a ship docked in the harbor, I know you screwed me.
Right, right,
So
true,
the bottom
true.
line is that is the only positive spin I can put on that thing in the aspect of where's the $20 trillion over the past 2 decades? And the answer is I don't know. But the bottom line is if I give you a couple of trillion more and I don't see a boat that I can like walk up to, break a bottle of champagne open and slug it down, and before the military arrests and shoots me, man, the man, at least I know I got screwed,
Right.
and I have a valid complaint.
He's got about 4 billion for the development of unmanned surface vessels of various types. Yeah, I mean,
That's a little
he,
disturbing, but
yeah, it's unmanned underwater vehicle production, unmanned surface vessel production, and stuff like that. But it's crazy. There's 20 to 30 line items for shipbuilding. Like, so the one thing that's flooring me, and it gets worse, folks, is what are we doing here? I mean, are we aren't we the greatest navy in the world, and we need like 50 billion to be even better?
well, I would say this
I mean, we're in a time of peace.
again, trying to put a positive spin on this, which is really difficult. So you should give me
And
some
it's
credit.
shocking, but keep going.
And you should give me some credit for this.
I know.
If you can't use them, if we don't go to war, which is hopefully the case, you could roll all those ships 12 miles out to sea daily and turn them into casinos. Do you know how many? Do you know
Really.
how many blackjack tables fit on an aircraft carrier's outside deck, dude?
Probably a million.
Exactly, dude.
Mm.
Maybe even more craps tables than
Right,
blackjack tables.
right. Craps being the operative word. The military spending just keeps on going. He needs enhancement for defense resources for integrated air and missile defense. So we've got 5.6 billion for the development of space-based and boost phase intercept capabilities. 7.2 billion for the development, procurement, and integration of military space-based sensors. 2.5 billion for the development, procurement, and integration of military missile defense capabilities. 2.2 billion for the acceleration of hypersonic defense systems. We got 1.9 billion for improved ground-based missile defense radar.
Boy, you know what? I sure wish I had a security clearance.
Yeah, jeez.
That be knowing something about the software business. I sure as hell wish I had a security clearance.
Right. It goes on. Of course, we need enhancement of munitions and the defense supply chain resiliency. So we're throwing money like crazy, millions and millions of dollars towards that. We got about only 67 line items devoted towards that, all of them in the range of 40 million to a billion.
Yeah,
2 billion for additional activities to improve the U.S. stockpile of critical materials through the National Defense Stockpile Action Fund authorized by somebody. That's a big item. Here's a beauty: 1 billion for the creation of next generation automated munitions production factories. Again, are we entering the world of the Terminator with these automated factories that are going to build ships and bullets and missiles?
Right, exactly. So, and from that point, while I am not opposed to automation, if you're paying for it yourself, if I was running a business and a supply chain, a manufacturing type of business, I would be looking at some level of automation, obviously. But, you know, a lot of this you've discussed, or the Trumpster has discussed job creation.
Yes.
Guess what, dude? When the robots building all this type of stuff,
Mm,
there ain't no job
right.
creation other than other than the programmer who is programming this. I don't think I need a ton of them, man. Especially once the line is set up. Presumably, it's going to be repetitive and continue to do the same thing. Or, a robotics mechanic when, some type of roller or arm or something like that breaks, man, a hydraulic mechanic. But I don't need a whole lot of people to operate my factory. So your whole job creation scenario doesn't really seem to match up with the spending of the trillions of dollars.
Well, I'll argue a little bit in the short term. I think it will. So, and again, I'm going to be a little
Okay,
optimistic in that
I know where you're heading with this, and I would agree. Okay,
a lot of the spending is going to be towards U.S. And I imagine with Trump, this spending, this ungodly amount of spending, is going to go towards U.S. companies. Where I'd be a little skeptical if a Dem was in there and he was pitching this.
Oh, I agree with you, and I didn't. I thought maybe you were going to lead in this space, John. Before you can actually run the plant, you need to build the plant. And
Right.
that does, and there are quite a
Right.
few jobs created in the building
Yes.
sector of assembling this plant before it becomes operational to roll anything down the line. So I thought that's what you were going to say, and I would agree with that. Is if for a short term, for a boost, I'll say to the Trump slash JD in the future economy, yet you could get a 6-year boost
Oh,
out of
yeah.
out of building all these
Yes.
facilities.
Yes.
Not the operation of the facilities once they're live, but the building of those
Right.
facilities would take a lot of things. But I will say this. So you're building a lot of these facilities, and your buddies are going to get rich off of this scenario. There is a lot of failing infrastructure in the United States that essentially is owned by the taxpayer,
Right.
who is probably not your buddy, and they're not going to get rich off of this. But um, actually rebuilding some bridges could be a good thing, because if you take all my tax dollars and give it to your buddies to build factories that they own, and then you tell me to build a toll bridge or a toll highway around my city, I'm coming looking for you, bud. Because the bottom line is you took my tax dollars and you gave it to your friends, and then you stuck me with the bill for the aging infrastructure. Right.
Right. Right.
So we're if you think that we're looking at that one being a fast one, we're gonna pull that kind of crap. We're watching.
Yeah. He does have 4.7 billion devoted for telecommunications infrastructure modernization and system upgrades. I'm searching for the word infrastructure in the big beautiful bill. The first hits, of course, are related to military.
Right.
This is the first one I found that was non-military. Uh, there's a 350 million for unstaffed infrastructure sustainment. I don't know where that comes in.
I'd love to know what that is. Hopefully it's
And of
bridge.
course, yeah, $1 billion for space flight infrastructure, military infrastructure.
Right.
But yeah, I don't see anything with, you know,
I
the
would
bridges,
like to,
the U.S.
you could
infrastructure.
talk about the many, many decades of building a bridge to nowhere.
Yeah,
Could you please build me a bridge to somewhere?
right,
Because the bottom
right,
line is there's a
right.
bunch of bridges to somewhere ready to fall down.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
another loser in this is, to Chris's
Right.
point, U.S. infrastructure, because beyond telecommunications, I didn't see everything else as military or space related. So the thing I came up with when I'm looking through all this stuff, and I'll take a positive spin on this, is, man, there's going to be some U.S. stock companies and companies who are going to fare really well because of the big, beautiful bill. So
Yeah.
he's got U.S. steel based money going out. So
Yeah.
who's the biggest U.S. steel manufacturer? Nucor. Take a look at that stock symbol, NUE. That's it. I mean, there's some investment opportunity,
Oh yeah,
folks,
I
I
agree
think, in
with you.
this.
I
And
agree
I'm
with
looking at this stuff and I'm like, who is going to build this military dream that Trump wants
you.
that he just allocated 200 mil towards?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So he's got shipbuilding all over this. Well, who's the biggest U.S. Shipbuilder, folks? It's Huntington Ingalls Industries, stock symbol HII. Who's the
Right.
biggest aerospace? They're gonna benefit. Lockheed Martin. Who's like number 2 or 3? RTX.
Yeah.
Who's like in the top 5? Boeing.
Yeah, right.
So,
No, I agree, dude.
folks, stay tuned because me and Chris may collaborate on the Trump ETF fund
Yeah,
that's gonna
exactly.
be
Yeah, right.
born from the big beautiful
and
bill
and
because
ironically, very very little of it has like experimental AI in it.
right.
And it's actually how much high quality steel can you actually produce?
Yeah, so for the short term, I see a lot of these companies benefiting from this ungodly amount of Department of Defense spending. I mean, I
Yeah,
started going down. Here's a list of the biggest government contractors. Oh, shoot.
that's his
Yeah,
top list.
here it is.
Okay.
So Lockheed Martin's 1, RTX is 2. By the way, RTX used to be Raytheon.
Oh, okay.
General Dynamics Corps 3rd, Boeing's 4th, Northrop Grumman's 5th. You got Huntington Ingalls, I just mentioned, the biggest shipbuilders, 8th on the
Yep.
list, the big contractors. So, I mean, pick some. We're gonna come up with a fund, I think, folks,
Yeah.
and we might just throw in some play
Now
money or real money, and we'll tell
again,
you how good we're doing because I
when
think
we
we're going to be
build
doing
these new
well.
ships, John, we don't really have to wait for there not to be a war. What are you doing with the old ships? Because
Right.
even if it's an old ship, I'm pretty sure I can get 1,000 craps tables on the deck and have it repurposed for the bar. And if it gets too hot, we can actually take the World War II grade guns on that thing and turn them into water cannons. Man.
Right. But I think,
For a spray down by the bars, of course.
I mean, if I'm going to be somewhat optimistic about this ungodly amount of Department of Defense funding, then, like I said, if you can't beat them, join them.
Yep.
So
Right.
let's start investing in these companies that are going to get these millions and billions of dollars. And I imagine their stock's going to go through the sky. I mean, this is happy days for Lockheed Martin. I looked at their stock. It's kind of on a dip. I'm like, geez, I might buy tomorrow on this.
Right. Well, and so from the steel production, piece of things too is
Right.
that is legitimate because of the fact that you are going to have to rebuild these bridges, folks. Because
Right.
I'm telling you, if a couple of them start to collapse, which has happened in the recent past, a couple of these bridges start to collapse, people are going to be mad and they're going to be
Right.
clamoring, and your major thoroughfares to conduct commerce in this country will be impacted.
Right. So, I mean, yeah, I mean,
Except, of course, for the evil, dirty coal plants who are still shipping their supply chain coal on a barge down a
right,
river.
right, right. I mean, Trump's a fan of coal, so, but it's crazy. To your point, I mean, there's going to be billions and billions of dollars spent in space and missiles and ships, and not 1 billion I saw for fixing bridges, fixing roads
Right.
in this
Unless
big,
it's
beautiful
mismarked
bill.
in there somehow. I'm not seeing it, but I'll tell you what, better juggle some
Right.
spending and get
Oh,
that stuff
yeah.
in there, man.
Shift. All right. Did you have anything else? That's all I
No,
got.
I
All
think
right.
we're
I'll put a
good,
wrap
man.
on it. You can reach us via email at onefortheroadpodcast@gmail.com. Our website is up. It's
Yay.
onefortheroad.net. Slight problem with the certificate. I'm on it. Other ways, you can see us on YouTube, of course. Subscribe and like us on YouTube, please. We're on 3 different audio platforms. They are Spotify, RSS.com, and Podbean. That's the third one. For C Squared, my name is Mr. K. Have a good week.
Yeah, folks. Thanks for dropping by and listening to us. And I will say, don't worry about the certificate on the website. We are very trustworthy. Look at this. I have a face for radio. I
Yes,
am
yes,
very
me too.
trustworthy.
Me too. Next show might be the Trump Fund ETF that C
Exactly.
Squared and I are going to put together. So
There
stay
you
tuned.
go. Hey, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great week.
Take care.